Okay, guys, so this is my big brother.
How you guys doing?
What was that? He's running plays. Y'all, he's so nervous. Hilarious. Alright, so wait for those people that just have no respect. No respect. Hey guys, welcome back to Are You Listening, where we have intentional conversations to help you listen and learn well with your loved ones and strangers. Now, today's topic is discipline. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, we're going to talk about taboo topics. Yes, we are. And the funny thing is, a lot of people don't think discipline in itself is a taboo topic, but to me, I think it comes with a word that a lot of people don't like, and that word is submission. So, without any further ado, we're going to jump into the conversation. But before we do, I just want to let you know who's going to be joining me in today's video. And it is none other than my very own big brother, Mr. Ebenezer Owusu-Sekyere. He has a military big background, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear a little bit of his take on what discipline is and how it's actually shaped his life. So, without any further ado, here is today's question.
Discipline for me is it's something that I feel like you do or you're taught along the way to kind of like better put your life in order, right? Okay. So for me, I felt like maybe like in the beginning of growing up and stuff like that, you know, I had discipline because my parents, you know how they are, strict, school and all that stuff.
Yes, I do.
Somewhere along the line, I realized like, okay, maybe this is not for me, so I have to pick another.
What's not for you?
Schooling was not, furthering my education was not for me at that moment in time. So I decided to join the military.
How old are you when you joined the military?
I was 18. I did like a couple of semesters at College of Staten Island.
College of Staten Island.
Yeah. And then after that, I was just like, it was just too tough for me at the moment because I was at the pace of like wanting to make money, also kind of like living my life, but being able to do it in the right way. The thing that I liked about it is that when I joined the military, I realized that as time went on, the biggest thing was the little subtle details that they taught, which was like every morning when we woke up, it was a certain way everything had to be uniformed. From our beds, where the corners look. So it has to be at a 45-degree angle.
Was it like, what's that movie, Major Payne? Is it just like Major Payne?
Killing is my business, ladies, and business is good.
It is like Major Payne, but that will be really me, how I made it look.
Oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Okay. So but you were Major Payne.
I was Major Payne. So if you really look at it, in the beginning, I had to go through that. One tubby, you remember that, right? So I had to go through that. But once you get the discipline to know, okay, this is what they're trying to show me, right? So later on down the line, having a conversation with one of my superiors, he said, look at the change of how certain things are with you, right? So it became like, when I put my uniform on, the way I would stand up was different from how I would be if I was in regular clothes, right? Sitting up straight, right? Being at the board, you have to sit. It is like at an angle. There's always a way that the body had to look, right?
It's like a sense of honor or something.
Yes, and it's like pride, you know, like this is something that you know you're doing. You're serving people, you know. So it's doing all of that. The discipline that I got from it was that every little thing that we do in the morning is an accomplishment, right? People don't think about it like that. So when you wake up in the morning, the first 3 things that you accomplish is 1, making your bed, right? 2, brushing your teeth. 3, getting into the shower, right? You just accomplished major milestone. And people don't look at it like that.
That's true. I never did.
It's an accomplishment, right, in itself. But you think about how you feel after all of that is done, and you leave out the house. But then think about this on your way home. What are you thinking about?
The room that is well made.
When you get in,
yeah,
it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
that is made. You slide into it. You pull the covers. You're like, oh, thank God. You know. So to me, the subtle details in disciplining yourself are more important, right? Because what happens is that it builds little character traits, right? That eventually you start to look at certain things different, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at the point in my life now that
wait, hold on.
It's still part of the
what discipline is for you?
What discipline is for me.
Because we gotta go to how it shaped your life and all that.
Okay, so we can get to that. We can get to that.
Okay.
All right. I'll pause for that. Thank you. I'm glad you caught on to that.
So that's very interesting because so I've known my brother my whole life, right? And I can see that as you're explaining it. I actually can see that. For me, I think discipline. I've never been in the military. The closest I've been to the military is literally you. And I think for me, discipline has always been something that like people didn't like because it meant submission. Right? So when you're disciplined, that means you're submitting yourself to something. Whether you're submitting yourself to your own way of living, whatever it is, or you're submitting yourself to God, or you're submitting yourself to your boss, or whatever it is, discipline has to go with submission, and we don't like that word. We don't like that word. Even Christians don't like that word. I'm calling everybody out, okay? Because y'all know in Ephesians 5, when you talk about the wives, everybody's like, but why he say submit? Like, relax, honey. Read it in context. But people don't really like that word. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because I think that discipline does come with submission. Like you were talking about how you started feeling different and you walked different. And the little things that you did is what curved that. But you had to be taught that. You know what I'm saying? Like you had to be taught that by your superior to teach you that. And you only understood the importance of it much later on. So for me, discipline, it means that I need to submit to something for my good, right? And I think a lot of times we think of discipline as something that's for our play. It's for our discomfort, because it's not something I want to do. Like I don't want to wake up and make my bed. You know what I'm saying? But I know that if I do, I will feel better when I get home. Or I don't want to clean my room right now. But I know that if I do it now, I won't have to worry about it later on when I get home. So I think that's what it means for me. You went to the Army when you were 18. I was in 3rd grade, okay? And I was low-key scarred, okay? Because my brother, you guys saw the video with my sister. So my brother, after my sister left, my brother actually took me to school every morning. And yeah, him and my other brother taught me how to play basketball, like all this stuff. So like and you guys heard it there, I do have a closer relationship as far as childhood goes with my brothers than I do with my sister. And it's because they were there during my early years. So when he left, it was just like, first of all, the way you left. You're not gonna tell that story, though. You was gonna just, discipline. Okay, so how did you leave? And how did you tell us?
So the thing is, when I came back, when I was in the middle of me trying to find what I needed to do, I told my mom, I said, school is not for me. So I dropped out of college at Staten Island, and I told her, give me 2 weeks and I'll be out of your hair. This was a conversation we actually had, and I don't even know if she remembers it, but I told her 2 weeks I'll be out of your hair. And then she kind of gave me that look like, out of your hair, like, what do you, like, okay, fine. You get what I'm saying?
Which means,
where is he
going?
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's definitely a mommy thing to say.
What happened was that in the middle of that, and what's crazy, I really tell you the story because I've never told anybody this story. So you actually be the first person to hear this story. Okay. When I was in high school, I was in ROTC.
Yes, I remember that.
And I was part of the drill team.
Yeah, you were
I fell in love with drill and ceremony, right? Which was like, because the uniformity, spinning the rifle, standing at attention, the way the weapon looks, the way you stand, the way you turn, just the whole movement felt robotic to me. And it was just something that was just gravitating me to that, right? So now, fast forward to the story. So I literally left the house after that conversation. I left the house later on that afternoon, and I walked from here to the ferry. And I was actually gonna get on the ferry to go to the city. As I was walking, I ended up walking by the shelter. And I sat at the shelter for a little bit, which was like the weirdest thing ever, right? So as I'm sitting at the shelter, something said, look up. And I looked up. What is across from the shelter? The post office.
The post office and
the recruiting station.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I went into the recruiting station. So I walked in, and it just so happened, Sergeant Johnson was like, hey, do this test real quick. Let's see where you are, right? I did the test and I scored very high. I have a very high ASVAB score, which is like ridiculous.
What's
because
the ASVAB?
So the ASVAB score is like, you have a rating of like either, I have 112 ASVAB score, right? Most people get like 30.
I thought you was cursing, that's why.
No. So the thing is that what happens is that puts you in a different category, right? So he was like, when I scored that high, he expedited everything because he didn't want me to second guess myself, right?
Yeah.
Which was crazy because I said 2 weeks, and that's exactly what time I left.
Very interesting. I've never heard the story before.
Yeah, I went through the whole physical thing the week after, which was like strange because everything just happened so fast. I got my ID card, got all my stuff.
During this whole time, none of us know any of this. Okay, continue.
So I get everything done, and then the night before I ship out, I'm at Staten Island Hotel, which is now old people's home, right? So I was at Staten Island Hotel, and my best friend was with me at the time, Gabe. And Gabe was like, yo, you're not gonna call your parents? I was like, nah, I wanna make them proud, right? So I literally left. I did the first maybe 10 weeks in the military before I told my parents that if they could come to my graduation, right?
No.
Was it at the graduation?
No, the night when you were leaving.
I did say the night I was leaving, right?
You called. Mommy was trying to figure out, we were trying to figure out where he was. Blah,
oh, yeah, because I came home and packed and left.
He came
I only
home.
took a backpack.
He came home, he had his backpack, he didn't say nothing. And then so everybody's home and we're trying to figure out, where's dude at? he didn't come home with nothing. And I think you had a cell phone.
I did.
At that time. So my mom kept calling, and finally you called back.
And I actually gave Gabe the cell phone to bring back to the house.
Bruh. He calls back and he goes, I joined the military, blah, blah. I was like, what? Huh? He said joined the military, blah, blah.
The secret to it was that I knew if I told my mom, she was gonna be very skeptical. And then her look alone is enough for you to stop doing anything that you're in the process of doing. So in order for me to already be committed, right, that's what I had to do. I had to already be, because now there's no going back.
So low key, you already had this idea of being disciplined and wanting to be committed to something before.
Because everything at that moment in time I had started, and then just halfway just finished, and then just leave it.
Interesting.
Right? So I know so is this another question you was gonna ask, but I was gonna say something else.
Oh, the shaping how, so as you're talking though, I kind of hear little things of how you've had discipline in your life besides your upbringing, besides our parents, right? But just from you. So, and I talked about this idea of submission. So what were you submitting to in those moments? Even with the little thing, right? When you decided to look up, when you listened to the voice that was in you, that said look up, and you saw the army across from you, and even you not wanting to tell anyone until you knew all right, I'm really gonna do this. I'm really gonna finish. Yeah.
It up to that point, everything with my parents, because I kind of felt like they looked at me and kind of disappointed, because I was very problematic, schooling, not because I was dumb or anything, but even school, the minute my sister graduated, the school was mine. I didn't care. My classroom was in the hallway. The thing is that when I look at that, and to get back to what I was saying earlier with the submission, for everything that I had done, it was almost as if everything was being handed to me. right? So at that moment in time, it was like, when would it be my time for me to submit to something and actually gain some type of knowledge that could be used worldwide?
Everything. Right? Can you explain everything being handed to you by family, like by?
So it's kind of like, the first son, kind of like that. You kind of like have that head, like, you get away with stuff. Certain things, not too much is being said about it. Like, and it was just like, but I felt like they kind of were disappointed at the way I kind of was going. Because even from high school it's like I said, the last 2 years of my high school was disgusting. Like, phone calls every day. To the point where I wouldn't even come home because I didn't want the problems. You get what I'm saying? So I just felt like I had to do something that would make him look at me different for years to come. Right? And it was like, when I looked at it, I was like, you know what? The military, I know how I felt when I was in ROTC, and I want to see it on a broader scale, right? So the shaping part was the submitting, right? Now the thing about it is that this is also the other thing that you don't know. I was voted for every position that came up in basic training, AIT, because when people were like, when the drill sergeants would say, drop down and give me 50, I was the first one down. Like, because to me, it was like, we used to have this saying you can't smoke a rock, right? Technically, you can't, right? You can't. So I was a rock. So there's nothing you could do to break this will, because I'm already submitted everything that I was to this cause. So there's nothing you could do. We just finished running 4 miles. Guess what? You're gonna run another 4 miles. Let's do this. So that's how I was, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it was like everything that you expected, I was gonna give you that, and I was gonna give you more, right? So there was no ending. Anytime we'll do drill and ceremony, I was the last man standing. You talking about 150 people, last man standing. The other part about it is that when I got to my actual duty station, which was North Carolina, which was like probably the dopest trip ever, because my dad actually, he drove me down there, right? I literally was sitting down. It was me and maybe 1,000 soldiers who had arrived at Fort Bragg that day. I don't know where this dude came from. He was like, hey, you just got here? Where you coming from? I was like, oh, I'm coming from Virginia. He's like, where you from originally? I said, New York. He said, just by your uniform, you're gonna be color guard for this base. Just out of the, like, so.
And that's a big deal.
And that's a big deal, right? So I'm like, it just was like everything. So I look at the work that I have put in basic, right? I look at the discipline to the point where, like, when people were cracking jokes and I'm like the biggest jokester, I would not laugh. Like, it became that real to me, because attention to detail was the thin line between life and death, right? So that's how they taught us to be. Either you're gonna be paying attention, or you're gonna go here, and then this will be the difference between you living and you dying. Because this could be a stray bullet, right? But if you stay here, you good. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what it did for me. So drill, ceremony, like just anything, marksmanship, like it's so crazy, because I was just, and I don't know if I was I don't even know who I was competing with, because at one point in time I just stood out. Right? And then there's like, but I was just good at everything that they put in front of me.
Because you chose to submit.
Because I chose to submit. It was.
So I'm happy you said that, because the whole time you're talking, I just keep seeing this picture of our lives, right? Where a lot of our decisions are life and death. And I think a lot of times we don't want to make it that big. It's like, oh, I just went to hang out with my friends. But you never know, like the sayings, like the cliche, right? Being in the wrong place at the wrong time. A lot of those things are made around decisions and the discipline to choose to do something that we may not want to do, but is better for us in the long run. And so, like, I say it a lot of times. I've been thinking about it a lot lately too. Like, okay, am I doing things in this moment because I want to do it right now and it's gonna make me feel good? Or am I doing something right now that's actually going to make sure that whatever it is in the long term, I can look back in this moment and be like, I'm so grateful I did that then. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it also goes back to this thing of like, not why put off for tomorrow what you can do now. And I think this idea of discipline, because in all throughout your stories, right, is because you chose to submit to something that you truly believed in. And honestly, y'all, like, it's gonna sound funny, and it ain't no shade, he already knows, but like, the army was the only thing my brother like really finished.
Yeah.
Like, completed. Like, from the beginning to the end. And also,
they kicked me out.
Yeah.
On retirement, medical retirement.
He was retired.
I was actually gonna do like 30 plus years.
Yeah, like my brother's like been in the army since he was 18. You're 37 now. He just retired last year, 36. So y'all do the math. I'm not gonna do that. But even that, and then full circle, he now works in a school. Like, who does that? Like, that's not a typical story that you hear.
The thing that I actually wanted to say before we even got to this point was the fact that being able to submit, right? Is an interview that you did last couple of Sundays ago, right?
Oh, okay.
And one of the people that was on the panel said, when God gives you something, hold it like this, right?
Yeah.
It spoke to me so much that I had to go back and revisit everything that I've ever been given. And I've always had my hand like this. Because everything that I've lost, never really cared.
Is that good though?
But think about it. If you lose something, right? That means you always, you know what that does? When you lose something, it's only materialistic at that point, right?
Okay.
But you have the blueprint to be able to create that thing again.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
But I'm saying even the caring part, because I feel like you still feel something.
No, you do feel.
Okay.
But the thing is that you don't get engulfed in it.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
You don't let it. You don't stay there.
Because the thing is that when the thing that they always used to teach us with the military is that, be passionate about what it is that you're passionate about. But if it happens to go away, you could build it again.
Yeah.
You could create that opportunity again. Even if it's not in yourself, it be in somebody else. You get what I'm saying? So you pour, and then you see which direction it goes. So when I say I hold things out like this, it's really to the testament, because in order for you to go on with your life and having a focal point of where you're paying attention to, right? So right now, I feel like this is my time to be very in tune with God, right? I have to submit.
That's right. Yeah.
But submission comes easy for me. Because of my back. It's like, oh, we don't have to do this? All right, cool.
But he's like prepared you for it.
Yes. So all the years of going through this has come to this point now, where now I'm like, if nobody calls me, okay, so who got my back?
God does.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he's covering you.
Because he's covering.
So that's another thing about submission. Sorry to cut you off. But there's another thing about submission that I don't think people talk about a lot. We talk about the part that we need to bend our will to when we submit to other people, right? And authority or whatever the case may be. But we also don't talk about the benefit of submitting is that we have a covering. So when anything happens, God forbid, you're in the middle of something or whatever the case may be, or you mess up, guess who it goes to? Your boss, whoever it was that is responsible for you. It goes to them, right? They're the ones that stand as a shield for you to protect you from things. So submission isn't just something that you have to give up, but there's also something you gain in that. And that's not even speaking to everything that you've spoken to, right? All the things you learned, the honor, the all of that. It's not even speaking to that. You actually have like a covering. So like when the things happen, if you were just to submit to it instead of trying to hold your own and have your neck out and try to like swim on your own, like if you just submit to the floaty, you know what I'm saying? Think of yourself, I can't swim. I cannot swim at all. Do not put me in a pool. I'll fight you when I come out. But if you put me in a pool and somebody gives me a floaty, I have to trust the floaty. I have to submit my will to this device that is designed to do this. But how am I wasn't designed to float. Well, y'all can argue that, whatever you want in the comments, mind your business. But I wasn't designed to do that, right? So I think. So I'm not going, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense for me to fight it. In fact, when I fight it, I start to sink. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's something for us in the submission. It's not just something that we have to bend our will to, but we also have a covering when we bend our will to it. But I want to ask you a question. It wasn't on the list. This is something that just came up in my spirit.
Talk to me.
If you could name one thing that you think one thing that you should have been disciplined in that you didn't, one thing, and I'll go to.
I was gonna say what the obvious was, but I'll say paying more attention to my kids, paying more attention to my children, because of how it's been, you know, married, divorce, 2 kids out of those both marriages. Well, 2 kids, 1 and 1 out of every marriage. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? If I was disciplined enough to put them first, I probably would have been able to maintain certain things and certain aspects of how they view life. So I think like now I'm playing catch up with my oldest. The little one, I definitely got more of a reign because he's right here, you know. So, but the older one, it's certain things that I missed that were very vital for her growing up. So if I had to go back and do it again, that's one thing that I would probably do a whole lot different and be more disciplined with like the way I handle things.
For me, I think you ever ask a question and just like low-key snitch on yourself? It's crazy. I should have been more disciplined in my past relationship. I feel like I should have been way more disciplined in it. I think from the outside it looked like I was, but I really wasn't. And I should have been much more disciplined in it, and I should have submitted to God rather than submitting to man. And I think I definitely compromised when I shouldn't have. And how I knew is because, and this is no shade to him at all, because it was my fault, it's on me. But I know because after that relationship ended, I literally felt like an arrow. I use analogies a lot, but I felt like an arrow in the hand of God. Like he's been pulling me, and as soon as I was out, it was like, and I felt like I was hearing from God. I was like seeing things, and everything that he told me he was gonna do in my life, he was doing it. And to the effect of like, I would just walk into a room and somebody would speak over my life. Like, and obviously you don't take everything you hear, but you know when it's coming from God. It's a confirmation of what he's spoken to you before in your secret place. So like literally the past year and a half has felt like that. Like, all right, here we go, pop. Here we go, pop. Like that's what it's felt like. So I feel like it could have happened a lot sooner had I been submitted. But to close it up, last question, brother. Have you learned anything about discipline from me? And I'll tell you if I've learned anything about discipline from me.
So the discipline part that I learned from you, first of all, it's a whole bunch of lists. Like it's a total list. But I will give you the shorter version of it.
Y'all, I did not tell him to say any of this stuff.
No.
I'm actually super cringy right now.
When I came to your graduation, right?
Which one?
My point exactly. My point exactly, right? I didn't know that you could go to college for 4 years and leave with multiple degrees. I didn't know that. I thought it was a one-time thing. You go 4 years, you get a degree, you keep it pushing. I didn't realize that because we were taking pictures, and she was like, "Oh, I gotta go to the other building because I gotta get my degree." So in my head, I'm like, "But we're here."
Well, we at a building.
We already at a building. I just heard them call your name. Where are you going again? She was like, "No, I have another degree I have to go get." And in my head, I'm like, "Well, when was this degree being done?" And then she was like, "Oh, I did them all at the same time." All right, so you could tell my surprise. You could tell by the look in my face right now. Even my cousin was like, "You overachieving stuff." Like,
yeah, like
he was just like, you could tell he was mad because in his head, he had just graduated from Rutgers with a bachelor's in whatever he got. You know what I'm saying? And Rutgers is like a big school, right? So for him to have even made that comment, I'm like, nah, I'm with you.
Bro, like
I'm with you.
Oh, like both of my cousins. So our cousins are like our siblings because we all grew up together. But literally, my cousin looked at me. He was like, "You overachieving blank." Like he just came for me.
I say that to say that at that moment in time, I was like, one, how many credits is that? And then two, do you understand the level of dedication and the level of discipline it takes?
And I was working full time.
And had a full-time job. And then you had the Bethesda project also in the middle of that.
Yes, I did. We did start that.
So now my whole thing is that, oh, so you just went to school, you just got 1 degree? And I'm acting like I'm over here saying with like 12 degrees and something.
So
but
bad.
Her success is my success. You get what I'm saying? Because like, I look at it like, this is the same young lady that was sitting on my shoulders and I'm walking through ice. You get what I'm saying?
I know you've been dying to tell that story.
But no, honestly, just think about it. Like, every time, like, it was like, I would not let nothing happen to you. I would take all of it if it meant that you get home safe. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that to kind of give you more of a context that she's always been somebody we knew was special. And so when you go to a graduation, you're proud of her, but then you get a surprise and there's another degree. And you're like, but you were here for only 4 years.
I actually did 5. I did do 5 years.
You did?
Yeah, I did do 5 years. Because I switched degree at the last minute.
And then, so, but even that, 2 degrees will take you 8 years. I'm just saying. And maybe another year for a master's, right? And now you have 2 degrees, some minus, right?
Yeah.
How many minus?
My
point exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys.
All that ass.
I say that to say that it makes you as a sibling, it makes you reevaluate yourself. Like, and the thing is that with me, I've never been afraid to learn from somebody younger than me. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Because you're thinking like, oh, I'm older, I know, but actually, no, you don't. Because the thing is that she knew certain things about schooling. She was getting grants instead of doing loans.
But they got me. They got me masters because you can't really get a grant.
But who knew? So all I'm saying is that the discipline that it took for her to be able to do that, I already looked at her different because I felt like out of all of the siblings, she was the one that was like set herself apart from everybody else. Like, she knew she was smart, but she capitalized on it. She didn't just sit back and be like, oh, I'm smart, I'm just gonna do the bare minimum. It was like almost like a competition with her better self. So it was the first time I thought to myself, like, whatever God's plan is for your life, I accept.
So, okay, one thing that you have taught me about discipline, and this is gonna sound really weird, but joy. You taught me to be disciplined and to always choose joy in ways that probably you don't even think that you did. And I can say that my brother has consistently, he said it earlier that he's like a jokester, but he has consistently been joyful. In like times where like, I'd be like, why are you so happy? Like, you shouldn't even be smiling right now. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm mad at you for smiling right now. But he's been super joyful, and that's one thing that you taught me that I hold dear. And yes, there's like a whole bunch of other things that I could name, but that's one thing I would say, if I could like cap it, it's that.
That's dope.
Thanks for being happy.
Thank you.
Okay guys, so this is the part of the video where we give you tips for you to take this conversation and mirror it with your own loved ones and strangers and just random people, coworkers even, which never thought about that. You could have this conversation with coworkers that you trust, not like the weird one that'd be in the hallway looking at you all weird. Don't have that conversation with them. But the whole point of this channel is for you to be able to have some things that you can take away and for you to conversate with those that you love and people that you may just meet. So we have 3 tips today. And the first one is for you to expand on the other person's perspective or the other person's point of view. So in this conversation, we did that a lot actually, when my brother would talk about his stories and things that I've never even heard about, and be able to share the other side of that perspective of what it was like as a little sister or what it was like as the family. So that's another way for you to bring more meat to the conversation. So expanding on the other person's point of view.
And also respecting people's conversational space. And what that is that, as if you realize in the conversation, there was times where she'll be talking, I would want to say something, but I'll wait for her to finish, meaning that I'm listening at on a different level, right, on a level 3, right? And then what she would do is, if she had to interject, she would say, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but this is, right? And then it was like, oh, no problem, go ahead. And then also, you know, there was points where I wanted to say something, so even after our conversation where we were supposed to move on, I said, oh, hold on, I just wanted to put something in here real quick before we move on. So that's that.
Yeah. He actually touched on the last tip that we have for you guys in when he wanted to go back to something. So the tip in that is, don't be afraid to want to go back to something. Don't be afraid to want to stay in a certain position during the conversation. I think a lot of times when someone else is speaking and it's not your turn yet and it's time to like move on in the conversation, we'll stay quiet, but there could be value in what you are holding on to. And it may actually be, there may be a reason why you should stay in that space. Maybe it's like you have hurt there, and instead of you addressing the hurt, it's like, okay, let's just keep going, but now you're festering something. Or maybe it's a joyful thing or something that you can add to. So don't be afraid to stay in a specific part of a conversation, or don't try to rush past it just because you don't think it's valid or if you don't think it adds anything to the conversation. It's a conversation. Anything can happen. Like always, don't come in with your own agenda or any walls up. You saw a couple of the questions I asked, I hadn't even prepared for. Like, it literally came out in the conversation, and that's the joy of having an intentional conversation. So I'm grateful that I have my brother with me for this one. And if you got it this far, you already know intentional conversations only happen when you start them. Love you guys.
Hey.